Hey everybody, welcome back to North Knives. My name is Andrew, and today I have a brand new blade from a company I have not had the chance to collab with yet. This is a Bushcraft knife. It is their Bushcraft knife from Uwharrie. So again, that's the brand Uwharrie, and this is their Bushcraft knife in 440C. The one thing I want to mention real quick before I start getting into this is I did add on my own clip from home. That's not the way it's going to come from the factory, but it does come with this sheath, which has excellent retention. Let's just start off with the sheath. I suppose that makes some sense. Now the sheath has lots of lashing points. You can see there are longer slots, shorter slots, and I've decided to put on a Spyderco clip. I've used a Spyderco clip for years. It's very simplistic, but it allows me to wear it at a cross draw with an angle, and I'll show you a clip of that right here of how I like to wear it on my belt. It's just this particular knife. It seems to set up really well like that, and for a knife that I can actually use aggressively and hard, I like to take it with if I'm on the trail. I have a gun on my right side, so I don't necessarily want to wear a blade vertically there. I might want to wear it horizontal or cross draw or small the back, something like that. This one happens to go on my left side down there on this particular clip. So that's how I like to carry it personally. But with that many lashing points, your tech locks, your ulti clips, I just can't think of anything that really wouldn't work with this. And when it comes to knife attachment systems, most of them are quite modular themselves, and it's not hard to find a way to mount this up, whether it be to a backpack, to an ATV, to your belt, whatever it is, a chest rig, it wouldn't be hard to do. The sheath is kind of unique because I just want to show you this. It has a liner in it. It does have a liner in it, so it's got some flash to it. It's not just a sheath, you know, it actually has a little bit of something to it. And if you can see this on the bottom, this is really important. I probably need to actually turn this around. So it does have that spacer and that liner inside and a massive drainage hole. Now, maybe if you just don't use blades a lot, you're not out in the elements very much. Like there's fires in Canada right now. It's so smoky out. I'm still outside. I'm just an outdoors person. I like being outside. But that means the elements, especially snow, will get piled up here in my area. And so water gets through. It's 440C, and it doesn't really matter what blade it is, especially if you live near like the coast or something like that. You can get some pitting or rust if you're not allowing water to run through. Surprisingly, 440C is not that bad when it comes to rust, as long as you just like wipe it off or allow the water to run away. You don't want it to sit in water. Some Kydex sheaths nowadays are simplistic. They don't have a lot of flare. They might not have a lot of attachment system options. They don't have good retention, or they're not quiet. This one is totally quiet, and it has lots of mounting system options, and it has that big water hole. So it can weep, it can drain, can run right through, and this is probably one of the biggest ones that I've had on a knife, and I'm saying that positively. That's a good thing. Get all the moisture out. I don't want it sitting against the blade, especially if I'm in a scenario where I need to use this on meat, or I have been using it on meat and I just need to wash it out. When I wash out my sheaths, some of the sheaths that just have tiny little drainage holes, that's a problem. This one I can actually get a Q-tip in there, and if I have guts or blood or whatever is on this blade, yeah, I can actually wash it out and pressure wash through that thing. So no problem there. I like the sheath. It is a little bit unique, just because it has a little bit more thickness to it. But remember, the stock thickness of this blade is relatively large as well. I mentioned it, it snaps into place. Listen to this on my mic. It does snap into place, and it snaps out of place. I get a click and a detent in both directions. Again, one of the reasons I mention that is I might find a great sheath, or a great knife rather. If I find a great knife, but it has a poor sheath, I'm pretty disappointed by it, and I get frustrated with looking for a better quality sheath somewhere. I want to start with the best quality sheath. I don't really want to have to upgrade it from there. And so this has most of what I'm looking for, if not everything I'm looking for, in a knife sheath. And there's a couple tricks to the knife which reduce the footprint of the sheath, which I'll explain in a second. Underneath, you're going to see that there's actually a little bit of a cutout. The reason that this is intelligent is because when I grab a knife, let's say that it didn't have a cutout there, if I have to grab it down here and pull it out, now I have to reposition my hand. Look how far away I am from the cutting surface. I have to reposition my hand. Because this has a thumb depress there, a built-in position on the sheath, and a cutaway on that choil or that first finger position, when I grab the knife, when I pulled it out, my finger, or my hand rather, is exactly in the position I need to use it. So whether that's cutting some rope, maybe in a defensive use, something like that. That's not really a way I think about blades very often, but if you were in a defensive use and you needed to tell that bobcat or whatever to get away, when you grab it, it's right there. And it kind of works in any position. If I was on a plate carrier and I had to grab this, I don't have to reposition to get a better hold of the blade. I think that's intelligent. I like it, and it does cover up a significant portion of the choil and that hilt area, as you can see on the blade. Well done with that. No rattle, guys. No rattle. No, just none. Just no rattle. And it's not so tight. I don't know how they really do this. It's also not so tight that it's obnoxious to take in and out. It's got a really good in and out on the sheath. I've had it in and out maybe 200-300 times now. And yeah, probably 300 times when I think of it. It's not wearing out. I'm not getting shavings across the blade. This is actually done very, very well. Seems like a nice quality sheath. And it feels a little bit more of like a, I don't know what level polymer that is. Another thing, there is a little bit of, what is the code? Like a Morse code kind of deal on the back, kind of a survival thing. But this is a Bushcraft knife. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. That's the sheath. I give it probably an A+, A or A+. I think I'm gonna say A+ because it's really good. This is the blade. This is the Bushcraft blade now. This has some secrets. Let's start on this end. You can see that there is somewhat of a drop. It still has that leaf-shaped design that we so much like and appreciate in Bushcraft survival style knives, but it meets up just a little higher, which allows the belly to have more of a sweep. I like that. The reason I like that is when I'm carving and I'm actually doing real Bushcraft work, I'm slicing, or if I'm working with meat, which food prep for me fits into the Bushcraft thing because the blade has to be able to do well in the kitchen and especially with wood. But that kind of design and that shape allows me to do things like bow drill divots. Choking up because of the broadness of the blade is not dangerous. If I had a very thin, skinny knife, it just puts me closer to the edge and I have to be more careful. But as it is, there's lots of ability to choke up on this. So if I don't want to over penetrate something, a lot of times you use my thumb as a guard. Like when I was opening a package earlier today, I just grabbed this and I used my thumb as the guard so I didn't over penetrate. And the broadness also adds to shearing power. So this is going to be a blade that shears relatively well. It's going to slice and carve relatively well because this is hair popping sharp. And then because of this thickness, check out that thickness. Because of that thickness and the secondary grind being up here, I'm pretty sure I can trust this to be, bomb-proof for the most part. Really, really well made and thought through. 440C is going to give it decent toughness and decent resistance. It's not going to be really, really hard to sharpen, so there's an advantage here because it's a Bushcraft knife. You're probably going to be using it a lot. You're going to be carving a lot. And honing, like sharpening and honing both, probably not terribly difficult. So far, all I've done is run this past a strop. I'm not at a place where I need to sharpen or reprofile this because I guess basically it's done better than I thought. It's performed a little bit better than I thought. On the scales, when I saw the pictures, I thought, it looks like it's got some okay scales. That was what I thought in the picture. But actually, the scales are much, much better than I thought, and I need to show you why. Take a look at the contouring. I'm going to come in a little closer. I just need to focus in on this, because I think this is actually important for you to understand. No, the scales are not flat. These are 3D scales. And the texture that you're seeing here is not so aggressive that it's going to give you a hot spot. Actually, the scales themselves are all the way rounded. And there's a little chamfer, there's a bevel, a smooth transition into these positions. A little bit less right here, but pretty much everything else my hand touches, smooth transitions. Check this out. Towards the front, I can get space for a pinch grip. That might matter more so just for kitchen stuff and food processing for most people, but I can get an appropriate grip on that knife through a pinch grip because there's that contour and a little bit of a reduction there. The swell around the first finger position, I have XL size hands. Okay, pretty big guy, I'm 6'5", definitely need bigger scales to be comfortable with the bushcraft knife. With this choil and cutout, I still feel like the swell,
let's just see if I can get
towards the first finger position here, it gives me a sufficient amount of space where when I grab onto it, it's not thin. My fingers are not binding. Oh, they're barely touching actually, but they're not binding into my palm. Just consciously, the way that our bodies work, if I can feel my hand, my fingers pressing into my palm, it reduces your grip. Your brain just basically tells you, be careful, don't hurt yourself. And it's not comfortable to squeeze onto something. And if you're really pushing through or slicing, doing chest lever cuts and things like that with a thin, small handle, it just tends to be a little bit more difficult. This, however, has those contours. And like I'm telling you, the transitions are done pretty darn well. It's not completely round like, what would you say, like a broom handle style design, but this also won't rotate in your hand. It's not going to spin or slip one way or another. It's going to be very stationary and steady. Even though there is some texture here, it's not aggressive texture. It's not going to hurt or cause hot spots, which with a bushcraft knife, basically any bushcraft knife that has hot spots, it's disqualified for me because I don't want to woodwork and work with hardwoods or be chopping and do that kind of thing all day if at the end of the day my hand is going to get destroyed. It's just annoying. I don't want to have to wear gloves in order to use a bushcraft knife. This one, the contours should protect you from having really bad hot spots in the hand. When it comes to these handles, this happens to be the tan variant of the blade. It does have red liners and it's marked 440C. So you know what it is. In fact, mine has a item number on there. There's a little bit of pride of ownership with these blades because they do cost a little more, but I think the fit and finish is next level too. So there's some pride of ownership with the numerical marker on there or the item number. And then you have Torx hardware. These are stainless, it looks like. Torx hardware, which means they're replaceable, they're removable, they're cleanable. There's things that you can do. I prefer to have removable scales. Having pins through has some advantages for some blades, but when it comes to a survival knife or bushcraft knife, if I'm gonna be banging on this thing, if I find a way to chip or break something, or I just find another scale, an aftermarket scale that I want, it's nice to have the Torx on there so I can change that out if I so choose. Moving on from there, you do have, kind of looking at the handle, in this contour, it's not built up for fingers in every position. That would be annoying. I wouldn't like that. It's mostly built up for most people's hands. As you can tell here, not a problem for me. This is where my fingers line up. I think even with small size hands, you probably aren't going to have an issue with this position. But if you have big hands, you also won't have an issue. So that's a good thing. I'm glad that there's no more finger grooves in the rear of this tang, which it is a full tang with a secret. Here's your lanyard loop, and let's just get to the end. On the very end, one thing I like is that there is a rounded handle, because again, it's bushcraft. We don't want sharp edges except for the knife edge and the spine, which this is ferro rod sharp. Then here's the secret. This is not a traditional hole in the handle knife. It's a little bit different. That is a ferro rod. It is a thread-in ferro rod, and inside there's threading, and also you can see this is still full tang. This threads into a pocket inside, guys. It's pretty neat. Now, I've batoned with this knife relatively hard. I've cross-batoned, I've chopped with it. I have banged on the end of the knife. I usually take the ferro rod out if I'm gonna do that. I've banged on the end of the knife. I've beat on the scale side when I was batoning. Did some things that you just typically wouldn't choose to do if you didn't have to. And the scales are not loose. Everything is tight. The meat and the fit and finish on this is actually very well done. There's not a single place that I have found with my finger or by looking where I see the liner popping up. Sometimes that'll happen if you loosen things up, or just where the buffing job wasn't done well. All of this has been buffed really, really well. It's a surprise to me because I'm a knife guy, but this is a newer brand to me, so I was excited to see that the fit and finish of this is very good all the way through. Doesn't look like they cheaped out on anything, including that grind. The grind is even on both sides really well. So you have the option of carrying a fire steel all the time with you, and then also probably replacing this. Maybe you can get replacements or something like that down the line. I told you it has a sharp spine, and I don't have to carry a fire steel on here. It keeps this a little bit more slimline. I appreciate that. I can't lose it as easily, This is something where if I have it attached to this, I always have to make sure it stays attached. I need hardware, I need Loctite, I need some sort of retention device or a strap or Ranger band. It's just one more thing. The fact that this is still full tang and I have a fire steel with me is very, very neat. I like the idea. I've used fire steels for more than 10 years now. I still use lighters, things that are normal. I sometimes do a fireboard and bow drill sets, but most of the time it tends to be a fire steel. The truth is I haven't used this one yet because I'm going to save the first strike for being on camera. Let's do a couple strikes to get the paint off. And then from there, let's see if I can throw some sparks. Let's just do it right now on camera. So first couple strikes just to get the paint off. Okay. All right, the paint is off. Let's see if I can throw a spark. You guys seeing that? It's definitely throwing sparks. Let's go over to the stump. If I get a dark background, I think you'll be able to see these better. Grab a dry stick here and make a feather stick very quickly and light it up. Man, the deer flies are really bad, guys. I'm sorry if I'm just moving a lot. I got so many deer flies on me right now. Okay, and a couple thin ones to ignite. Okay, I didn't like the performance on that. Here's another piece of wood that is incredibly dry, years dry, low percentage of moisture. So normally I just work it back and forth and drive sparks into the tinder bundle. Having to overdrive into the tinder, just trying to find a spot that will release some magnesium and oxidize. So does it throw sparks? Yes. It can throw some sparks. I'm just working for it a little more than I would like to. It could just be a sign of a slightly hard ferro rod, which does happen from time to time. But either way, it does have the capability. It can do it. I had a little bit of a difficult time getting some of this to start up. That doesn't mean that it can't do it ever. It just means right here in my scenario and testing, it was a little bit hard on the ferro rod, and it does seem to have dulled out the spine just a touch. Let's move on to something else. This is a relatively thick blade. It's not thin. It's not obtuse. It's not too thick. In fact, this is shaving sharp. That's the first thing I should probably show you real quick. Like, truly shaving sharp. It is a little bit of a V grind there. So you've got this initial grind and a V grind. It's shaving sharp. I don't think it'll be shaving sharp by the time I'm done, but it'll still be relatively sharp, would be my guess, if the heat treat is done well. And that's one of the things I'm going to be testing is, what does that heat treat look like? Let's chop with it a little bit. No lanyard attached, but it does have a lanyard hole. So for you, that might be important. For me, I'm just not going to have the lanyard attached. Here we go. It's a real hard piece of wood. A really hard piece of wood. This little branch has been sun-dried, I think. If you're familiar with ironwood, it would be like that. Oh, I got through it though. Check that out. Any chips? No chips. Well done. Like I said, really, really hard piece of wood. Oh man, it's just hard to take bark off. It's such a, just a dried, hard piece of wood, I guess. And these are twisty, like the grain is just a corkscrew of a grain. They burn hot too, which is kind of cool. Just a few little sticks like this. They burn a long time, and I think it's just that density that it has. One more time. I don't think we did enough. Let's do one more. And maybe I'll go like this so you can see a little better. I'm gonna grip back here. There's a little bit of a flare to the handle, and it gives me something to hold on to. Nice. Let's check it out. 0 blemishes, and that's about the hardest piece of wood I can provide. I've got black walnut, and I've got oak, and I've got red oak, and I've got buckthorn, dried buckthorn. This is harder than all of that stuff. Nothing, no problems. No rolled edge even, Not bad. For 440C, that's actually pretty good. I expected just a slight roll of some sort, but nothing so far. It's not a very long blade compared to some, but because of the thickness and the ability to get back on the swell right there, it gives me an ability to chop, and it actually feels pretty good chopping. The one thing I would change, let's see, is I would just add my own lanyard to the rear. Oh, yeah, that is a stout blade and a stout piece of wood. Okay, it's already deeper and further than the other big blade. Okay, one more time. Let's just see if I can do it here. That do it? That might have. I've actually got a good crack going. Look at. That's not too bad. I need a smaller piece of wood that I can actually hold on to. Let's see. So this is on the end. That's a ferro rod that twists in and out. Because I'm gonna smack it on the end of the tang, I'm gonna take the ferro rod out and just hammer right on that. Oh, it's going. My goodness. Let's hammer on the spine. This is not really an appropriate way to do it, but for the sake of finding out if these scales can hold up. Oh, guys, I'm telling you, this piece of wood is, it's not just twisted, it's just fixed together really hard. Whew. Got it. My goodness. That was a workout. Now I want to take a look at those scales. Yeah, not bad. Scales still match up. Scales are not loose so far. How about the edge? I don't think the edge grabbed onto anything while it was pressing through. Can definitely see a nice healthy smear across the blade, but because of the finish, it does seem to slide through. It did wedge properly, which is what you want in a knife like this. You want it to wedge a little bit, but not get stuck the way that a full flat would. And I think the shoulder helps split it apart or blow it apart the way that maybe a full flat grind just wouldn't do it quite as well. This stuff is so hard. There we go. There's another split. I can tell this thing wants to feather decent if I can get a good piece of wood that's a little more consistent. I think it's going to feather good. It's that V edge. I never really have too much trouble feathering with V edges. I can usually get nice, thin, slicey pieces. And I'm still able to get not a bad feather stick going. I just know I can do a lot better. But, I mean, that's something you could add that to the pile for sure. It's not a bad one. Definitely a better piece of wood for the task. You can see these light curls that I'm doing. I mean, they're paper thin. Probably thinner than paper. All right, I've got a stump here. I'm gonna back up a few paces. Let's give it a few tosses and see if I can get her to stick in the tree or if it'll break. I don't think it should, but it's fair enough to give it a try. Definitely landing on the scales. I'm curious what will happen if it lands on the fire steel. All right, there's a stick. All right, that was the final toss. I need to take it inside and wash it because it was landing in poison ivy. Blade looks pretty good. A couple dings in there. That's small. I probably can work that out. And fire steel did not break. Handle scales did not come loose. Very good. All right, coming to the end of the video. I've already told you that I really like the sheath. The sheath works well for me. I like the lashing options, the retention, the style design features. So the sheath is good to go. What do I think about the blade? I'm just gonna give you a couple pros and positives of things that I appreciate about this knife. I'll try to do it as briefly as I can. When I like things, I tend to talk too much. So I love blades and I like bushcraft blades. That would be an area of interest for me that is probably higher than most of the other blade categories. I like hunting knives, but I prefer bushcraft blades. I like tactical blades, but I prefer bushcraft blades. So here's what I like. I like the shape of the blade. I like the design of the blade. I like shearing power, especially in a bushcraft knife. If I can still get away, if I can still do some carving, some finer work, if I have broadness there to get up and do the bow drill things, and I have the thickness to support the steel structure behind that. If I can keep those carbides safe, then I really like it. This blade does come down to an acute enough edge that I can be slicey with it. It's 440C, so it's really not difficult to sharpen at all. Like I think anybody can sharpen this. And it may not hold its edge as long as some of the modern super steels and all that, but I can also hone it up at the end of a day on my strop ceramic rod really easily. You don't have to be an expert to sharpen this. It can be somebody who either has a lot of skill or somebody who's new to the game. You'll probably get it right. So that's a good thing, right? We don't want blades to cost us so much more time in the sharpening. We want it to be able to just strop back, be relatively sharp, and go back to work. So that's something that I kind of appreciate. I haven't used a 440C blade for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. Truth is, I probably didn't need to move into super steels most of the time, especially with blades that get abused. I like the toughness factor. Toughness is a good thing in a state that's cold, and my state gets really, really cold, except for this week, for whatever reason. One of the things most of us will appreciate is there's a sharpening trail right here. So you can start and stop. You can have a nice crisp spot to, if you're running a belt on a work sharp grinder or something like that, belt sander, or if you're actually using stones, it's not going to run into the hilt or any of those first finger positions. So that was probably a good insight. I do like the actual pointiness of that tip, the drop there, even though the belly does seem to curve up and give me just a little bit more cutting surface and slicing surface. I felt that more when I was slicing through, and you can see how much angle that actually has. Quite a slicey blade overall. I like the red liner. I think it's classy. It looks good. It's a good fit with this. I'm a big Coyote fan. So Coyote tan is a good coloration. The choil ended up not bothering me. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about that. And the ergonomics have been done really well, as I've already mentioned. Having an option for a fire steel in the rear, it's only a good idea if it doesn't break under stress. And mine has not broken. It's still working just fine. It's threading in. The threads haven't broken. There's no fractures or breaks in the back. Even when I was throwing it and it did land, it landed pommel or fire steel first into that stump several times. Hasn't broken. And so I have the features that I like here. It's going to work for the bushcraft slicing tasks, the chopping for sure, and then also maybe a little bit of whittling and carving, like making notches, making traps and triggers, that sort of thing. It's not so long that it's unwieldy, and it's not so small and light that it doesn't have some authority. I think it does multiple things pretty well in that category. It's not going to be as small and nimble as like a 3-inch blade, but that's okay because I can pair this with that little 3-inch blade, and the two of them can coexist in the same space. This is kind of a one-tool option. It does lend a little bit more towards the survival knife category, but that's not an issue for me because every bushcraft knife is going to lend a little bit more towards just woodwork, crafting, kitchen, or survival. And this one just happens to do all of them pretty good, but especially the survival knife category. If you like this video and you want to see more of this, comment down below. If you have questions about the blade, comment down below. I do have another Uwharrie video coming out on their tent, which is one of those like spring activated tents that pops out. It's more of a bivvy style tent, a little bit militaristic. Looks like it's overbuilt. I'm excited to try that out and see because I actually think I fit inside of it. And I'll bring this blade along and talk about the both of them. So be staying tuned, guys. I have more content coming up pretty soon on Uwharrie. Thank you to Uwharrie for sending this out, and watch one of these videos handpicked for you.